Hello everyone and welcome to today's session on getting started with two-factor authentication. You may also hear me refer to this as 2FA throughout the webinar. This session is going to last approximately 45 minutes, which will include a Q&A towards the end. So it's going to depend on how many questions we have outstanding towards the end of the session. So my name is Abby. I'm a learning facilitator here at Sage, where I will take you through the demonstration of setting up and using two-factor authentication. I will also be sharing a video from Mads, who is a leader within our global information security team. Mads will take you through the importance of security and protecting your data. We also do have Michael and Matt on hand today, and Jackie may be joining us a little bit later. And they're going to be answering your questions, so please do bear with them as we do have a busy session today. Okay, so some of you may have attended a webinar before, some of you may be new, so we'll just go through some housekeeping. When you join, you will be placed on mute. If you wish to ask any questions, then click the icon that looks like a little speech bubble with the question mark in the middle. Now, we're not going to open up the questions straight away, and I'll tell you in a moment why. To download a copy of today's handout, then click the icon that looks like a little document with the folded corner. We would recommend downloading this as it will have some helpful links to resources to our help centre. Please note, this session is recorded and will be included in your follow-up email, which you will receive around an hour after the session has ended. We do also already have a recording available on our help centre if you wish to access that sooner. Okay, so let's take a look at what to expect from today's session. I'm firstly going to play you a video from Mads, who will explain what two-factor authentication is, what is data security, and how could your data be at risk. We'll then cover why we have introduced 2FA and why it is important to you. After the video, I will cover how does 2FA impact you. We'll also cover questions that have been asked on previous sessions. We are going to keep the questions closed till after this point. And the reason for this is we do have a lot of you on today's session, so it will just make it easier to keep up with the questions if we can answer some common questions first, but please do bear with us. I will let you know once the questions panel has been opened. I will then cover how easy it is to set up and use, and this will include a video demonstration showing you how the different methods of how you can authenticate. Towards the end, I will cover when you will need to start using 2FA, and then we'll dedicate some time at the end to answer some of your questions that have come through. Okay, so we'll play the first video now.
So my name is Mads Howard and I manage our Chief Information Securities Office, and I help oversee all of the security programs that we run as a global security team. Now, our team is based globally, and we not only protect us as a business from cyber attacks, but spend a huge amount of time supporting our customers and aiding our customers and helping them navigate the really complex technology world that is facing cyber attacks on a daily basis. Now, fully understand that adjusting to a new technology change can sometimes be challenging. It can feel like you don't want to have this change happen, but two-factor authentication and the fact that it is being implemented is a really important step for us to be taking as a business and for us to be helping you as our customers go through. It's ultimately there to help protect you, yourselves, and our customers from cyber attacks. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes setting the scene from the perspective of global security, why we are kind of going through this technology change and why it's not only important to you, but also beneficial to you and your business. And as I go through this, what I really want you to think about is, how does this go beyond my Sage account? So two-factor authentication isn't a new technology that Sage has introduced. It is available on most accounts, whether that's your social media, your personal email, your Amazon, whatever it might be, you will be able to enable two-factor authentication for free. And so as we step through this webinar today, I want you to think about, actually, why is this important in today's world, and how can this help make you more secure all round? So a little bit about what is data security and what is two-factor authentication, or 2FA, as Abby mentioned, we're going to refer to it as. So data security refers to how we as humans protect our digital assets from unauthorized access. And when we're talking about unauthorized access, that could be anybody. It could be from cyber criminals. It could be from your kids that you don't want accessing your phone. But anything that is connected to the internet is a digital asset. Now, if you are running any part of your business and you are connected to the internet, this means that you have digital assets. So I'm sure you're thinking now, actually, you've got lots of digital assets that you want to protect and you don't want people to have access to that shouldn't. So previously, we have had passwords as a protective layer on accounts, and as technology has advanced and we all enjoy the luxuries of better technology, so is the technology that cyber criminals can access. And in 2024 and beyond, a strong password is kind of no longer good enough to help protect your account. Cyber criminals are very sophisticated in how they crack passwords, in how they guess passwords, and also where they can sell them on the dark web. And this is where two-factor authentication comes in. So if any password, again, whether this is your Sage password or your personal email password, is cracked by cyber criminals, if you have two-factor authentication enabled, it ultimately stops them from being able to log in and access your details. Now, you've probably experienced two-factor authentication in some capacity, whether that's through onto your mobile banking, you might have experienced it through biometrics before, but two-factor authentication is becoming more and more kind of a regular occurrence in how businesses are looking to protect their customers and protect their data. So why is this important? Well, you might be thinking, there's no way that a cyber criminal is going to have access to my password, or why would they want my password? And you'd really be surprised at the amount of passwords that are cracked and leaked by cyber criminals daily and kind of published online, often without us knowing. And we're going to share in the chat a really great website, which I'd encourage you all to have a look at, called Have I Been Pwned?, where you can see if any of your details have ever been included in a breach. And you'd be surprised. I've had details included in breaches before that I had no idea about. And what I want you to do is, I want you to kind of consider that if your password has been considered to be found in a breach, and also your email has, all it takes is a cyber criminal to pair the two together and they could access your account. If two-factor authentication was there, they wouldn't be able to do that. You would get a notification and you'd be able to kind of stop that cyber criminal ultimately in their tracks. So I hope that gives you a bit of context as to the reason why we're introducing this. This isn't something that is being done to make things more difficult. This is ultimately being put in place because we want to protect you, our customers. We want to do the right thing by you. So a little bit about why have we introduced it? Well, I've talked a little bit there about it being best practice. And if we didn't introduce it now, we'd be introducing it shortly, because we'd either be behind the curve or we'd have missed the boat and we wouldn't be doing the right thing for our customers. To give you a bit of context, we recently, as a global security team, conducted some research, and we found that 25% of small to medium-sized businesses had experienced one incident in the last year, and that's just attacks that they know about. And secondly, 51% said that keeping on top of latest threats was their biggest challenge. And this tells us that it is a pain point for our customers and your fellow small to medium-sized businesses. You're worrying about this, and so we want to help to look to simplify this and take away that pain to give you peace of mind that your account is secure with us. Secondly, we as a global security team, as I said, we don't just protect us as a business, but we spend a lot of time supporting our customers if they do have their accounts breached. And in 2024, we've supported thousands of customers who simply had their password guessed by cybercriminals, or they were using the same password on multiple accounts, or their password had been cracked. And cybercriminals had logged into their account. Now, thankfully, we've got an amazing team, and we were able to stop that, like any damage occurring really quite rapidly. But if 2FA had been implemented, then those attacks wouldn't have even occurred, and our customers wouldn't have gone through that stress and that worry of, is their data safe and secure? Now, all of these attacks that we've seen over the last year, we know that this is the right thing for us to do for our customers, and we want to make sure that we are helping you and guiding you to be the most secure versions of yourselves. So it's really important that I stress that, you know, as we as a team, if ever you think you are experiencing something, you can always reach out to us as a global security team. We are here to support and help you. But ultimately, if we introduce two-factor authentication, we will help you on that way to being more secure. So hopefully that gives you a bit of insight as to the why this is important. It's not there to slow you down. It is ultimately there to protect you and your business and the hard work that you put into your business.
Okay, so all that information that Madge has just talked about in that video is available online as well. I've provided a link to that information in the handout, and I will point this out towards the end of the session as well. So now what we'll do is we'll move on to how does 2FA impact me? So how will 2FA impact your product? So this part is really important. So feel free to make notes, and remember you can also download the handout as well, but also you are going to be able to access the recording after the session has ended. So here we have three scenarios. 2FA will only impact scenario 1 and scenario 2. Scenario 1, you use connected services with your Sage 50 accounts software. So that may be several services or just one. You will be prompted for 2FA when you are required to re-authenticate using your Sage account. There is a remember this device option, but I will talk more about this later in the session. If you're not sure if you use connected services, you can go into go into help along the top of your software, into about, and then in the features enabled section down the left hand side, it will tell you the connected services. So this could be bank feeds, could be remote data access, invoice finance, go cardless, supplier payments, or Sage Connect. Now scenario 2. This is when we've introduced version 31. So that is available now. And there is a tool called, a new tool, AI tool called Sage Copilot, where you will be required to log in with your Sage account. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail around this, but I have included some information at the end, which I will point out again, and I'll briefly go over if you do wish, or your clients wish to adopt Sage Copilot, and that's when 2FA will be required at the point of logging in. Now, scenario 3. So if you or your clients do not currently use any connected services and currently have no plans to adopt either scenario 1 or 2 by November, and you just log in with your username and password only, so it might be that you're restoring backups, you will not be prompted for 2FA. However, we are encouraging everyone to get ready for 2FA, as it is in our product roadmap as a phased approach, where it will be rolled out to everyone eventually. Now, we don't have specific timescales, but it will be coming in the future. So it's something best to get prepared for. Now, there's often a lot of confusion between a user logon name and your Sage account and when to use them. So on the left, we have the Sage logon. So this is the window you see when you log into your software. This is a username. So this might be manager or a username that you've been assigned to log into the Sage software and complete the day-to-day processing tasks in Sage 50 accounts. So on the right, we've got the Sage account. So this may be used if you are logging into one of our many online services, but it may be if you've used or using connected services such as remote data access or bank feeds. So this differs in that it requires an email address rather than a username. So when using two-factor authentication with Sage 50 accounts, you will only enter a 6-digit code when you have to log in or pop it when it prompts you to enter your email address and password, which is the example on the right. And initially, this process will only apply to you if you use connected services or the Sage Copilot. Now, one thing I will mention, when you're using connected services, it's not going to necessarily prompt you at the point of logging in. It's when the digital token for your connected services needs refreshing, and it'll need you to re-authenticate. So I want to talk a little bit about our Sage account ecosystem. So a Sage account gets you access to many different services in product and online. So as we've already talked about, we've got connected services within your Sage 50 account software. So it gets you access to different add-ons that I mentioned earlier. It might be that you've accessed the Community Hub. So it's a forum where you can ask questions, suggest new ideas, and vote on others for future versions and just general discussions and support. Might be that you access My Sage, where you access your Sage invoices for your Sage products. Might be that you've raised a support ticket with our report design team or our Excel team. Or might be that you've used our support services for data corruption and you've needed a data repair by one of our specialist teams. Lastly, we've got Sage University. So it might be that you've completed some courses on certification, legislation on our Sage University website. So it may be that you've already got a Sage account that you can actually utilize without realizing. So that's just one part of the 2FA process already completed. Okay, so we're going to get to this part here. So we're going to go through some important questions answered. So these are questions that we've been asked on previous sessions. So we'll go through these questions. And then what we'll do is we'll then open up the questions panel after that. So the first question I want to cover is, why can't I receive my code via email? So we believe in using the best and most secure methods to protect your data. Emails are where cyber criminals will target first to gain access. So we consider using an authentication app or text or phone call more secure. What if I don't want to use my personal device or mobile? So if you do not wish to use your personal number, an authentication app on your phone does not use or store any personal data. Alternatively, you can use a landline in an office to receive a call as long as an extension number is not required. Which version of Sage 50 accounts will require 2FA? So from February, all versions will support 2FA. For connected service users, 2FA will be triggered when re-authentication is required, which can be any time up to 6 months, which is what I was just briefly talking about earlier. So it's not going to necessarily be at the point of logging in. In version 31, if you're using Copilot, users can authenticate daily or every 30 days. You do also get that option when you're using connected services as well. What if my client is not using remote data access, so RDA, but are using other connected services? So when you restore their backup into your software, it will prompt to enter Sage account details or work without. You will select work without, and this will allow you into the company without the connected services. So if you're needing to process adjustments, journals, that sort of thing, run any processes, it will allow you to do that. You just won't have access to any other connected services. And then you can take that back up and then send that back to your client. What if we are unable to use mobile or landline? So desktop authentication is available to use, but this is not a method we recommend, and we do not consider this to be the most secure option. It is important to note that some desktop authenticator apps do charge, whereas mobile authenticator apps are free. If you do have any issues using desktop authentication, it is not something we support. You will need to go back to the provider. Additionally, you will only be able to authenticate from that location. So if you have a computer in the office and then you use a laptop at home, you would only be able to use that desktop authenticator on the machine it's set up on. If you are wanting to read any more FAQs, then we do have, if you have the handout downloaded, that FAQ button is clickable and it will take you to the FAQ page on our Help Centre. It will also be included in your follow-up email as well, if you do wish to check that out later. Okay, so I have now opened up the questions panel. So if you do have any questions, do get them across. We do have Michael, Jackie and Matt on hand to answer your questions, so you can pop them across to us. I'll try my best to pick these up as well. But let's take a look how easy it is to set up and use. So the setup process is broken down into 3 stages. We'll outline these key points and then we'll run through a video demonstration. So the first step would be that you receive a link to your email address. You'll do this by going to one of the guides on our Help Centre if you wish to set this up early. I am going to provide links to this as well. You'll then select which way you want to authenticate, so whether that's going to be via text, phone call, or Authenticator app. Now, one thing I do want to make you aware of is if you've got loads of companies and you need to authenticate on those companies, text or phone call do restrict you to 5 codes per hour. So if you've got multiple users as well, then you do only get 5 codes per hour. Whereas the Authenticator app, there is no limit. So you can get as many codes as you need for those companies. And then lastly, what you're going to do is you're then going to make a note of your recovery code. So the recovery code is if you are unable to authenticate using your primary method, you will then pop in your recovery code to recover your account. Let's take a look at the video demonstration. We'll demonstrate the process twice, once using an app and then once for using a text or phone call. Again, the questions panel is now open, so if you do have any questions, do get them across to us, and also you can send these across whilst the video is on as well.
At Sage, we safeguard your security, value your privacy, and uphold the highest standards of data ethics. To continue to keep your business safe from cyber attacks and fraud, we've added an extra layer of security. This is two-factor authentication, also known as 2FA. Once set up, you'll be required to enter a 6-digit code. However, for added convenience, your Sage product can remember you for 30 days. This means you only enter the verification passcode again once the 30-day period has lapsed. The setup process is easy, and there are two options to choose from: using an Authenticator app or receiving a code to your phone. We recommend using an Authenticator app as they provide the best level of security. Three popular apps are Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, or Authy. When choosing an app, look for one that offers capability with your devices and the ability to manage multiple accounts. The setup process will differ slightly depending on which app you choose to use. For the purpose of this demonstration, we'll use the Microsoft Authenticator app. First, let's set up 2FA using an Authenticator app, then we'll show you the process using text or phone call. To set up 2FA, visit the Help Centre. In the search bar, enter Setup 2FA and click the search icon. You will be presented with a set of results. Select the guide. Under the Resolution section, click Account Management area and log in to your Sage account. Select two-factor authentication and then click here to send the email. Open the email and click the unique link to begin the setup. Open your Authenticator app and click to add an account. You'll be presented with three options. Select Other. Next, scan the QR code. If you can't, you can enter a unique code instead with the link provided here. Once connected, the app will provide you with a 6-digit code. Please note this code is temporary and after a short time the code will regenerate. You should always enter the most up-to-date code. Enter your code here, then click to continue. Next, you'll be given a recovery code. You'll need this if you want to log in the future but do not have access to your Authenticator app. Copy this and keep it somewhere safe. This is a one-time use code and once used, you will be given a new code. Remember to take note of the new code each time. Select the checkbox to indicate you have saved your code and then click Continue. Two-factor authentication has now been set up successfully. Let's move on to setting up using a text or phone call. When you are prompted to set up two-factor authentication, click here. A prompt appears explaining the two ways to verify it's you. To continue, click Phone, and then select your country code and then enter your phone number in the box provided. Choose which method you'd like to use here. A landline number can be provided for phone call verification, however, this will only work if an extension number is not required. To move on, click Continue. Enter the 6-digit code provided by text or phone call in this box, then click Continue. Next, you'll be given your recovery code. Copy this and keep it somewhere safe. Select the checkbox to indicate you have saved your code and click Continue. Once you've set up 2FA, log into your Sage account with your verification code. We'll show you this now. For the purpose of this demonstration, we will log into the Sage account using the Microsoft Authenticator. You'll receive an automatic prompt asking for your 6-digit code. If you require a different verification method, click here. Your options are listed, including your recovery code. If you used an app to set up 2FA, access the app on your device to retrieve your 6-digit code. Please note this code is temporary and after a short time the code will regenerate. Enter the code here and select this checkbox if you would like to be remembered on this device for the next 30 days, meaning you do not need to enter the verification code each time you log in. After 30 days, you will be asked for a new 6-digit code. To complete the verification and log in, click Continue. You have now logged in using two-factor authentication. You have now learned how to set up and use two-factor authentication with your Sage account.
Okay, so don't worry if you haven't been able to quite follow that video of the setup process. It is going to be included in your follow-up email because it's going to be included in the recording. But I'm going to provide you guides to get you up and running as well on how to do so. Okay, so one key part of the process that I want to bring to your attention and reiterate how important it is to make a note of your recovery code. Now, a recovery code is a one-time code to authenticate when you do not have access to your primary method. So it might be that you've forgot or lost your phone and don't have access to the authentication app or to receive a text or phone call. But once you've utilized that code, you will be provided with a new one to make a note of and keep safe for if you need to use this method again. As long as you always have this recovery code, or when you get given a new one, you always make a note of the latest recovery code, you will always be able to access your account. I think it's around after 30 days, it will then prompt you to apply a recovery method. So a recovery method is an alternative email address or phone number that can be used to generate a new recovery code if you've lost that as well. Now, you would use this method if you no longer have access to your primary method or your recovery code. Now, you cannot have both phone and email methods set up. You need to select one or the other. If you choose to use a phone number, we would recommend it be different to the original device, like a landline without an extension, as this can be a text or a phone call, or use the email option. We have had cases where someone has used the Authenticator app as their primary method, but then also used the phone number for the same device and didn't have access to their recovery code, and they had their phone stolen. That meant they had to get in contact with support to gain access to their Sage account. Also make sure that the email address is different to this original Sage account that you've registered with. So it could be a colleague email address to be able to access that. So as long as you've made a note of your recovery code, and when prompted, set up a recovery method, you will always have access to a way of gaining access to your account. So even if you've lost your phone or got a new device, they are all resolved by having this recovery process in place. So if you choose, like I say, if you choose the email method or phone number, just make sure it's different to the original email address registered and the different device that you originally registered to as well. Okay, so summary and considerations of the demonstration we've just watched. So one thing I want to make clear is that you must use, if you're going to use the Authenticator app, make sure that you use the QR code scanner within the Authenticator app, as using the normal phone camera will not link them correctly. You can authenticate via a call to a landline if an extension number is not required. The recovery email must differ from the email that you sign up with. And you can also copy and paste the recovery code to a safe place, so like a secure password document, rather than writing it down and having to manually type it in. It's easier just to copy and paste it across. Remember, this device for 30 days option will be available per user with a Sage account for each company. Okay, so to get started, so the next steps in time for February. So the steps are provided on the handout. So if you have the handout downloaded on this slide here, you've got 3 buttons. So the first one is Get Started. So this will be you can send this guide to each of your users because they will need to set up their own Sage account and set up their own 2FA as well. We also have provided a guide to update your details. So if you want to change your method, so if you've already got it set up, you want to change your method, you do have to remove it and set it back up. If you wish to change your recovery method, you can also do this within the accounts management window. All of this is provided in the guide. Again, I've also provided a link to the FAQ page. I would also absolutely recommend you check this out as it does have answers to majority of your questions. Now, before we move on, I just want to show you some really helpful resources on our Help Centre. So if you just go to sage.co.uk/help, and then you'll be taken to this page here. As you can see, we've got a two-factor authentication hub. You select which one is relevant. So we'll click I'm an accountant using desktop. So we're using Sage 50. So we'll choose 50 accounts. And in here, you can find out all the relevant information. So find out more about 2FA, set up 2FA. So you can share this. This is the one that's on the handout. If you want to share this with your colleagues to get set up their own Sage account. How to log in, how to change your device, how you can get access without the device. And then again, we've got the FAQ section as well. Now, if you were to just pop back to the Help Centre part, and we're going to go into the 50 accounts Help Centre now. And what we have as well in here is in the very bottom right, we've got a little green bot here, Sage Assistant. If we click on here, it did used to give us options now, so that has changed. But we can just see if we can type in 2FA. So then here you can type in 2FA, two-factor authentication. Then it gives you options. So set up 2FA, multi-user, problem with. So click on set up. So you can go through the steps and it'll walk you through the process as well. Okay, so we'll pop back to the slides. Okay, so now we'll go through when do I need to start using 2FA. So in May 2024, we began rolling this process out across many of our products. So therefore, you may have already been prompted for 2FA in the past. This will become a mandatory for Sage 50 accounts from February 2025. And I think it's around the 3rd of February. And it's going to be initially starting with Sage Copilot and connected service users initially. So if you are not using Sage Copilot or connected services, you are not going to be impacted at this moment in time. But what we are doing is we are recommending to get a head start and set up unique profiles for your users and enable two-factor authentication now. So then it's already done in time for mandation from February the 3rd. Now you can see we already have over 400,000 2FA users across all of our products, and it'll probably be even much higher than that now. And that's just in UK and Ireland alone. And we already have, it'll be over 50,000 2FA users now, just for 50 accounts before it's even been made mandatory. I can see a question has just come in there. I'm just going to pick that one up from Stephen. Can the users set up their own accounts, or does admin users have to give some sort of permissions to be linked to the account. So as I've mentioned, each user will set up their own Sage account and set up their own 2FA. And then we have provided the guides on the hub for you can just share the link with the guide with your users to set up their own account. Now, we've got some important information for those who are using remote data access with their clients. So you will follow the same guidance we've just covered, but with some additional considerations. All individual RDA users will need their own unique login. So sharing logins will no longer work. Now, we know this has never been best practice and we don't encourage sharing logins. However, we did accept some users have worked this way in the past. However, each user will require their own login come February. An email is required even if they're not accessing the product remotely. This will trigger an automated email invite for the user, which can be ignored if they're not going to be using the product remotely. If they are going to be using it remotely, then they do need to action that email. And finally, once unique users have set up their own account, their unique Sage account, they can then begin to set up 2FA. Now, I've just got some specific accountant scenarios in relation to the remote data access. So the first scenario 1, so it is up to your client whether they want to manage all accountant user records. So that's where they will add in any new, so if you have been sharing logins in the past, each of your users will need to have their own user record. So that scenario 1 is where the client will create and maintain all accountant user records. And that's where you'll be set up with a specific user type, which I'm going to cover in a moment. Alternatively, scenario 2 is where you have that chat with your client and your client allows, maybe it might be one specific accountant user to create like-for-like user records. So that's where they're happy for you to create other user profiles, which are either the same level of access as your current user profile or lower. Now, to edit a accountant user, either you or your client will go into settings, user management, and then select the relevant user or create a new user or click edit. You would then pop to the remote data access section. Well, actually what you would do so you can either go into the level of access, give them the same level of access or lower. It can be added to just one main accountant. And then you go into remote data access section and then under the email address box, there is an option to this accountant or bookkeeper can create and manage other accountant or bookkeeper types. And this option can be removed at any time by going into the same area as well. Okay, so to summarize, no changes will take place until February 2025 unless you have other products linked to your Sage account. So I can see a couple of questions have come in there where you are using other products with a Sage account. And the question is, can you use the same email, the same Sage account for Sage 50? The answer is yes, you can. You don't need to have a separate Sage account email address for Sage 50 specifically. It is going to be starting with Sage Copilot and connected services users initially, then all users regardless eventually. 2FA will only impact connected service users when they need to re-authenticate, and it's not necessarily going to be at the point of logging in. Each user requires a unique username and email address. Now, you can't, so if you have an email address on one user already and you attempt to put that on another user profile, it will not allow you. If you're unable to create another work domain email address, then there are other free email providers available. If you already have a Sage account for other products, as I've mentioned, or online services, this can also be utilized for 50 accounts. And just a reminder, you do not need to create the account for your users. They will create their own Sage account and password and set up their own 2FA. Again, I have provided the guide in the top right-hand corner. So create a Sage account and set up 2FA. That button is clickable. You can share that with your colleagues. I've also provided a guide just to the generic help center and also the two-factor authentication hub as well. Okay, so we're coming near to the end. So we'll just have a look at some of the questions just to see if there's any that's not being picked up. Bear with me a moment. Okay, so a lot of the questions have been picked up by my team today. So what we'll do is we'll just give this a last opportunity to pop any remaining questions through for us. What I'll do is I'll go through some helpful resources. So helpful resources. So again, I've popped in that 2FA FAQ if you want to check out any frequently asked questions on today's topic. I've also provided the 2FA security information. So this is going to include everything that Mads was talking about, and it goes into more detail so you can have a read into that as well. And then lastly as well, it was just regarding the website that Mads talked about in her video earlier. If you want to see if your email has been included in a data breach, I've used this myself and I was quite surprised as to what my personal email address had been, what it had been included in over the years. So it's a really useful tool to it really opens your eyes and gives you some insight as to the unknown of where your email address could potentially have been leaked. Okay, so I've talked a bit about the Sage I've mentioned it quite a bit, the Sage Copilot. Sage Copilot keeps an eye on your data and workflows, flagging irregularities, errors, and opportunities. Provides key insights and suggests actions, helping you to make smarter decisions faster. If you'd like to register your interest for this feature, either click the link on your handout or your follow-up email. It will be included in there as well. Okay, so just before we wrap the session up, we'll go through some questions in just a moment. I can see there's still plenty coming through, but I just want to talk and mention the Banking Excellence Badging event that we've got coming up in February, and it's a chance to earn your digital badge. We can share this with colleagues, clients, suppliers, share it on social media. But what I'll do is I'll play a little video which gives you a little bit more information on what sessions we have to come.
We have some exciting news for 50 accounts users. Are you ready to revolutionize your banking experience? Join us for an incredible journey through 8 sessions from February the 4th right through to the 20th, designed to streamline processing and enhance efficiency. Simply attend 6 out of the 8 sessions and a quiz to test your knowledge, and you will earn your very own Digital Banking Excellence Badge. This will be added to the new Accredible portal, where you can collect and manage all your badges. From here, you can share your badges with colleagues, clients and suppliers to show your progression to becoming a Sage expert. Imagine a world where your bank transactions are simplified. Now, throughout these sessions, you'll dive deep into topics like simplifying bank transactions, managing customer receipts and supplier payments, mastering bank reconciliation, and revolutionizing your bank by automating with bank feeds. We'll show you how to simplify your routine with bank recurring items and how to correct bank errors. Harness the power of e-payments and add your bank information to invoices for faster payments. Don't forget, to earn your digital badge, you need to attend at least 6 out of these 8 sessions and complete the quiz. Transform the way you work with the bank, get paid faster and automate your processing with Sage 50 accounts.
Okay, so if you want to get registered for any of those sessions, you can just visit sage.co.uk/webinars. Okay, so that does bring us to the end of today's session. Please feel free to stay around for the next couple of minutes or so if you're waiting for an answer to a question or you have any further questions to ask. If you've got what you need today and you want to leave the session, you will receive an email in around an hour or so with links to both our webinar schedule and today's recorded session for you to refer back to if needs be. Upon exiting the session, you will see a survey at the end. If you could please let us know any feedback regarding today's session, what you did like, what could be improved, because we always do look to improve our sessions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pop myself on a brief mute just to have a look at the questions that are in at the moment. So please do bear with me. So there's a question there just coming from Lisa. We're an accountants. We currently open Sage 50. We're taken straight to our client list without logging in. We then have to just enter the logon to access the account. So at the moment, it totally depends on each of your clients. Some of them may be using remote data, not necessarily remote data access, but connected services. Again, even if you are using connected services, you might at some points you might only need to log in with your username and password. It's at the point where it's going to ask you, you're prompted to pop in an email address and password. If you're not sure whether you're using connected services, when you log into the company, you can pop into help and then about, and then into the in the help and about page there's a features enabled section on the bottom left. And in there you can see if it's got a yes or a no next to the connected services, so the likes of remote data access, bank feeds, invoice payments, and so on and so forth. So if not, it might be worth having a chat with your client. If they don't use any connected services and they're not using Sage Copilot, then it's not going to impact you at this moment in time. But you might have some clients where it does impact and some clients where it doesn't impact them. Okay, so it looks like all of the questions have been answered. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap the session up. I want to say thank you to my colleagues who have been on hand today to answer your questions, and thank you to you all for your participation. Just a reminder, we've got plenty of sessions over the next couple of weeks, so don't be shy and get registered. So I'll say another thank you and take care.